Hello everybody, in this video we'll be looking at HumanIk in Maya for rigging a character. And here's my character that I'll be rigging. I created this using my tutorial, building a character using Extrude. First thing I'm going to do is drag a generic character from the content browser into my scene just to get a sense of scale. And then I will scale my character relative to this generic character from the content browser. And now that I've scaled my character, I'll go ahead and delete the other character because I don't need it anymore. Notice that I have transform data on my scale information. I'll get rid of that by freezing the transforms on my mesh. I'll switch over to my rigging menu set. And then I will go to Skeleton HumanIk. And as you can see on the right-hand side of my screen, the HumanIk tools become visible. The first step is to create the skeleton. And so that I can better see what I'm doing, I'm going to, in my viewport, go to Shading, and I'm going to turn on X-ray joints. This will allow me to see my joints as I'm working on them. Now, under Character Scale, I will start to scale the skeleton to better fit my character. This involves a little bit of guesswork. This still looks a little too big, so I'll go ahead and scale it down a little bit more. And I think that looks good. We're going to be keeping it simple today. I'm not really going to make a whole lot of changes to the defaults, but just so that you're aware, these various settings, spine, neck, and so on, are ways that you can customize your skeleton if you need more joints in the neck, for example. And now I'll start fitting the skeleton to my mesh. Also, my front viewport, I'm going to turn on the X-ray joints so that I can see the joints in this viewport as well. I'll start with the pelvis. Make sure that you place it in both the front viewport and the side viewport. And with that situated, I will move on to the leg. I will be only working on my character's left side. When working with HumanIk, make sure to only do the adjustments on the left side. You'll be able to mirror those adjustments to the right side later on. And to be absolutely clear, I mean my character's left side. I'll first start with the character's left leg. What I want is for the leg joints to be centered in the mesh. Again, remember to check both the front and the side viewports. I'll then proceed on to the knee and place that. Remember that when you're placing these joints, you're thinking about where it's going to be bending from. Moving on to the character's ankle, I will place that. And finally, the ball of the foot. And I will double check my work in the front viewport. So far, so good. I'll now move on to my character's spine. Now, it makes sense to work on the spine in the side viewport. I have 3 joints in the spine, so I'll just somewhat evenly distribute them down the center of the character, working my way up to the chest. And then I'll move on to the neck. Again, it'll be best to place it in the side viewport. I will place it approximately at the base of the neck. And then on to the head joint, which I will put right about there. And now on to my character's left arm. While this bone is labeled left shoulder, it's more like the clavicle. Take a look in the top viewport to make sure that it is roughly centered in the shoulder area of your character. Now I'll select my character's left arm and start placing that. This is a critical joint because it is what's going to deform that shoulder area, an area that can be a bit tricky on characters. Take note of where I'm placing the joints. When placing the joints in the arm, you'll need to be switching between the front viewport and your top viewport. Looking at the elbow placement, I'll adjust that. And then I'll move on to the hand, placing it at where I want the wrist to bend. HumanIk is a bit particular when it comes to placing these joints in the arms, as well as the legs to a certain extent. Within the tool set for the HumanIk, I'm going to switch from skeleton to definition because I'd like to show you something. All my joints are green, as you can see. But if I put a slight bend in the arm, either through rotation or translation, you'll notice that they become yellow. Notice that I get this message indicating that the left arm doesn't seem to be parallel to the x-axis. If you can, avoid this problem. However, it's not necessarily a big deal. A slight bend in the arm joints will be okay. I'll now move on to the hand and the fingers in the hand. Please take note of where I'm placing my joints. I will be using both translates and rotates to place the bones in the proper placement of the hand. While HumanIk is not my favorite rigging solution, I do prefer it compared to Maya's quick rig because it does have bones for the hand. Remember to work in both the top viewport and your front viewport to get these joints properly placed in the center of the fingers. Now that the joint placement of my character's left side is pretty much complete, I'm going to want to mirror the skeleton to the right side. So I'm back in the skeleton tab of the HumanIk rigging solution. I will click on the mirror left to right icon, and this will mirror my character's left side to the right side. And now my skeleton is complete. And I will move on to the definition tab of the HumanIk solution. And with my skeleton selected, I will click on the Create Control Rig icon. And this will create the rig for my character, the puppetry system that will drive the skeleton. And now that my rig is created, I can move the different controls. However, my character is still not bound to the skeleton and rig. What I need to do is make sure that the character's hip bone is selected, as well as the mesh. And with those both selected, I will go to Skin, Bind Skin, and open up my options. Under Edit, you can reset these settings and these options. And then I will make one quick change. I will change the max influences from 5 to 4, and then I will apply. And now that my character is bound, I'll quickly test it by moving some of the controls. Notice that I can directly select the controls in my viewport, as well as using this handy UI on the right-hand side to select the various controls of my character. HumanIk is easy to set up. However, using it for animation is not so straightforward. Notice that there are two modes that you can work with when using HumanIk. There's the body part method and the full body. Notice that when I switch it to full body and I move the arm, at a certain point it also drags the rest of the character with it. However, if I do body part, it behaves more like a standard rig. Explore these two modes so that you understand them well and can most effectively pose and animate your character. One of the things I'm doing when I move these different controls is testing the bind on my character. Notice that when I move the character's right leg or left leg, vertices on the opposite leg also move. And also when I rotate the arm, there's a little bit of scrunching happening on the torso. The elbow looks pretty good. The neck seems to work pretty well. But there are some issues with the head joint. The spine area seems to deform pretty nicely. I'd like to draw your attention to three buttons in the Controls section of HumanIk. The first button is a toggle to show and hide IK, the second one to show or hide FK, and the third one is to show or hide the joints themselves. The IK and FK controls are actually part of the rigging, and the skeleton itself is what is deforming the mesh. Let's look for a few more problem areas on my skin bind. If I select the clavicle, you'll notice that it is affecting some vertices in my character's head. And you'll notice that there are some skinning issues in the hand as well. To fix these issues, I need to paint skin weights. I'll take a look first at the head. I'm going to select those bones that are in the clavicle area of my character, and I will rotate them down. This way I can actually see what they are doing to the head. Now let's find out why this is happening. With my mesh selected, I will go to Skin, Paint Skin Weights, and open up the tool settings for it. And if I find the bone responsible for the head area, I can see how it influences the mesh. I'm going to quickly reset the tool just to get it back to its default. And then I'm going to change the brush to this hard-edged brush. And I'm going to turn on Replace. Notice that I have my tool set to a value of 1. I will also quickly enable Use Color Ramp. Right now I am painting the influences of the head joint. The hotter the color, the stronger the effect that the head joint is having on these vertices. By using the replace and setting it to a value of 1, I am basically telling these vertices to be affected by the head joint 100%. The blue areas that you see means that that head joint is having a minor influence on those areas. Black areas are the areas that the head joint has absolutely no effect on whatsoever. I'm going to select the neck joint and just see what kind of influence it's also having on the head and neck area. And what I'll do this time is change the tool to smooth, just to smooth out the influences between the neck and the head, just to get a nicer, smoother deformation in that area. And now, if I go back to my HumanIk tools and I set it to full body, I can click on the far right button here and it'll put it back into its default position. I'll now test out those clavicles and see if I fix the problem. And indeed I have. They are no longer influencing the vertices on the head. There are, however, still some deformation issues in the neck area. As I try out the various controls in the head and neck area. In the previous example, I used the Replace brush to add influence. I added influence from the head joint onto the vertices of the head. But this time, I'm going to use the Replace, but I'm going to set the value to 0. This is going to allow me to take away influence instead of adding it. I'm going to take away some of the influence that the spine is having on the neck and head area. And because I still want to have a nice smooth deformation, I'll switch over to my smooth tool and just smooth the area out a little bit. And I'll quickly test the head and neck area of my character. And I think the deformation is looking pretty good. I'll now move on to the arm and shoulder area. Right now, the torso seems to be scrunching in a bit when I bring the arms down. First, I'll look at the influences of the various joints on the left shoulder area. I'm going to look at the left arm, left shoulder, and spine joints and see what kind of influence they're having on the arm. And the problem appears to be that the left arm is having a little too much influence on that torso area. That's what's causing those vertices to get pushed in to the torso. I've switched my brush from replace to add, and I've set the value to a low number of 0.1. This will allow me to gradually and gently add value from the left shoulder onto that torso area, taking away some of the influence of the left arm. Notice with the arm rotated down, as I add that influence to the left shoulder and away from the left arm, you can actually see the mesh improving in its deformation. And by using both of the add and smooth functions of the Paint Skin Weights tool, I can gently massage the area to deform better. Now, if we compare the left to the right side, you'll see that the left arm and torso area is deforming a little more nicely. I will now move on to the legs. Notice that when I move the right leg, there are some vertices on the left foot and leg that are also moving with it. This is because some of those vertices on the left leg are being assigned partially to the bones in the right leg. And if I return to my Paint Skin Weights tool, you'll see the influence that they're having. Notice the blue color on the left leg, indicating that there's a small yet noticeable influence that the right leg is having on the left leg. Once again, I will use the replace paint operation with a value set to 0 to paint away those influences, to paint away the influences that the right leg is having on the left leg. And I will also be painting away the influence from the right foot and the right toe. Notice as I paint away these influences, you can actually see the foot deformation on the left leg and foot improve. And now, if I move the right leg, you'll see that it is not having the influence on the left leg any longer. The left leg, however, still has an influence on the right leg. And this is an easy fix. With my mesh selected, I will go to Skin, Mirror Skin Weights. I'm going to mirror across Y, Z, and I want the direction to be positive to negative, so I will keep that checkbox checked because I am mirroring the left side, the character's left side to the character's right side. And when I apply, you can see that the right leg is not influencing the left leg, and the left leg is not influencing the right leg. In addition, you'll see that the changes I made to the left shoulder have been mirrored over to the right shoulder as well. Now the foot is still having some skinning issues. You can see that when I rotate the foot at the ankle as well as the toe, uh, that the deformation is not exactly what we want. We're going to go through this a little bit more quickly because I'm really not introducing any new tools here. Right now I'm looking at the influence that the right leg is having on the foot area, and I'm painting away those influences on the foot. Also, the ankle area is influencing a little too much of the toe area, so I painted away some of that influence and am smoothing out some of its effect. Once again, smoothing out some of the effect from the right leg to the foot area after having painted away some of its influence. And you can see that it's already deforming better. Maybe there's still a few issues when I rotate the toe, so I'm thinking that the toe is having a little too much influence on the foot area, so I will paint away some of that influence. And once again, I will use my smooth tool to just smooth out its influence just a little bit. And now the foot and toe area is deforming better. Well, I'm not really going to get into fixing the hand. Let's take a look at what the issues are. So if I select some of the finger joints, you'll see that each of the fingers is having an influence on the adjacent fingers, an unwanted influence. I would fix this using the same tools I've shown you in the shoulder area, the foot, and the head. So here's my character. I'm finished doing the skin weights. The character is fully rigged and ready to be posed and animated. In a future video, I'll go over some of the techniques for using this rig in both posing and animation. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.